Hello, my name is Ian, and today I'd like to share with you about the distribution of detail. So a lot of the time, at least when I've been using Boxcutter, it's been really tempting to just detail everything and make it just look completely insane. And you can see the thing I'm working on here. So I was thinking about that, and there's actually a talk by Gleb Alexandrov. He did it at the Blender conference. I think it was in 2017. I'll make sure and put a link to that, but I'm going to tell you the basic idea of that talk and how it can apply to using Boxcutter. So this is a little bit more on the theory side of things, but if you're looking for like technical details, I've already created a video about the basics of Boxcutter, but this is how you might want to use it. So first of all, Gleb talks about there being three basic sizes of shapes. The first of three being the primary shapes, which is a really big shape. So for example, on this piece, you can see I've got this big thing here. I'd say that's the primary shape. And then you've got the secondary detail, which is something more like this area here, I would say. And then you've got tiny details, which are like closer to this area. Wow. So basically, the point of his talk is to have a pleasing composition and pleasing detail that looks nice. You want to have all three of these detail levels. And his second point is that if you have them too uniformly distributed, then it starts to get boring and it doesn't look as nice. So his main point there is to distribute your detail unevenly, which you can kind of see throughout this. I'm not saying I'm perfect, by the way. I'm just using this as an example as I go along. Honestly, I think this area of mid-detail is too evenly distributed, so I'm going to go in there and wreck that in a second here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in practice. His third point is to use empty space to give your eyes a rest. On this areas of rest could be like up here where there's not a whole lot going on and it's just the primary shape. And finally, his fourth point is to clump your areas of tiny detail together. So sort of like what I have going on here. If I was just to take Boxcutter, I'm going to save real quick. If I was just to go like this, I mean, that's acceptable, but that is a tiny detail that isn't very well clumped. In fact, say I went even tinier and just did that. It's not terribly noticeable all by itself, so I think having clumps together actually really helps out just the visual interest of your model, which I believe was his fourth point. That's the summary of the talk that he gave. I seriously recommend checking it out yourself if this is something that you find interesting. Now I'm just going to work on this really evenly distributed area of mid-detail, and I'm going to try and add in some smaller clumps of tiny detail, just to break it up a little bit. And just a practical tip for Boxcutter, if you're getting these nasty artifacts going on, usually that means the cutter isn't in a very good place. So I hit L, and that switches it to live view. So once you finish the cut, the cutter is still visible. And with that, you can just sort of move it around and jiggle it around until you're not seeing any artifacts anymore. another point that Gleb made in his talk is it's not an exact science, but it's some principles that help you out, and it's a good idea to, yeah, just sort of loosely follow them. And also it crashed. So I guess that's the end of the tutorial. You get the idea. Have a good day. Cheers. I realize I literally just said goodbye, but if you want to get this pack of hydraulics for Blender, there's a link in the description. Just enter your email and I'll send them right over.